Alrighty. Last time we started the Carpenter job quests and then got distracted. Some political statements were made by me. I have had to cut all of that out. And now the last stream is only like 45 minutes long. Yeah. What I have done, though, in the meantime, is I have crafted all of the Carpenter turn-ins until, I think, Stormblood, because I think Stormblood is... Stormblood is the one where you have... not that, either. You have class quest stuff that you turn in instead. And these will be considerably easier because they literally give you the things to craft it. So, piece of piss. Right, let's go. Cut it out just in case. We don't want anyone getting the wrong ideas. Exactly. But just in case anyone gets confused, free Palestine. Fuck ICE. Fuck Trump. Oh, after. You look well. If you've come in search of work, I fear I have nothing to offer. Though, if you have no other pressing responsibilities, you might consider spending some time with the younglings in the acorn orchard. The workshop has demanded my full attention of late, and I have been unable to see to them myself. That will be all. You have an area for children and you call it the Acorn Orchard? I love that! That's adorable! Also, after, thank you for being one of the few people not streaming Subnautica. Yeah, because Subnautica 2 has just released in early access, right? I'll be honest, Subnautica, not exactly my kind of game. I'd potentially play it at some point, but it would always be like a side game. It would never be a full game kind of thing for me. I don't know. I appreciate it's a good game. Lots of people like it, but meh. Meh. Hey, you're one of those adventurers that joined the guild. I don't know why I've got this accent, but we're sticking with it. Maybe it's 'cause of my hat. Beaton's down in the dumps, is he? No wonder he hasn't visited in ages. I've seen him like this before. I bet it's 'cause he can't think of anything new to make. And he's no fun when he's like this. I prefer it when he's waving his saw around and threatening to tie his useless new apprentices to Fagaga's gift and... wait, I know you. You're a pretty good carpenter, right? Then you can make high-quality walnut lumber. You know how he's always saying stuff like, you must know the wood, and all that? Well, I bet if we gave him some really good wood, it'd cheer him up in no time. I know it sounds a bit strange, but then... he is a bit strange, isn't he? And we have to try something. I miss the mean old Beaton. The children, they yearned for the old Beaton. Corporal punishment's not what it was. Hey Beaton, I've got that good wood, if you know what I mean. Leave me be after. I must focus. What is this melee which plagues me? I thought myself resolute as an iron lance, and yet... Good wood.
Yes, I feel it. I feel it! This high-quality walnut lumber. It is your handiwork, is it not? Dense, durable, and expertly finished. There's no doubting there's no doubting your skill, after. Walnut furniture was once quite popular in Uldar. Mayhap we could revive that tradition. Or, better yet, produce a sturdier base for a new vamplate design. The possibilities are endless. Thanks to you, after, it seems I am now paralyzed with indecision. Oh, you have grown, and in so short a time. You remind me of a dear friend, another soul possessed of great passion. Though we walked different paths, we pushed each other to give nothing less than our utmost. Even helped me through those times when inspiration failed me. I see much of him in you, and so I know I can hold you to the same high standards. Return to your work after, and do not disappoint me. It is good you have come. Your talents are needed for a commission. The client asked for you by name, in fact. It would seem the adventurer turned carpenter has earned herself a reputation. You are to craft a walnut cane of unparalleled quality. When it is ready, bring it to me. I will not permit you to deliver anything less than perfection. Have you made the cane? Yes, this is perfect for beating the children with. You've done well. The gentle curve of the crook appears natural, as if it was destined to take such a shape. Indeed, your skillful application of growth formula has imbued this cane with new life, giving it the appearance of unworked wood. Wands and canes are perhaps the purest expression of the carpenter's creed, in that the finished product is a celebration of the wood's past life. Conjurers are, of course, highly attuned to the natural world, hence it is no small coup to craft a cane that satisfies. But the cane should meet with the client's approval. You may go and deliver it to him at the Adder's Nest. That's right, it's perfectly natural. We cut a bit of wood, threw some growth hormone on it, and now we're going to give it to basically a druid. I see nothing wrong with this picture. Yes, I'm waiting for a carpenter from the guild. Why do you ask? I feel like it's rare to see an Alamigan in Gridania. So, this is Beaton's famed disciple. Pleases me that I can finally put a face to the name. I'm Gerard. Though I myself have no talent for conjury, it's plain to see this cane's exquisitely wrought. Aye, cane's not for me. It was meant for a conjurer recently assigned to my unit. Her name's Panette, a talented but stubborn soul who's thus far resisted my every attempt to integrate her into our ranks. I've been here long enough to know Gridanians can be rather protective of their city, and that this can manifest itself into a deep mistrust of outsiders. However, I can't simply order her to set aside her prejudices. I need her to trust me of her own volition. It's in my hope that by giving her this cane, she'll at least accept my leadership. You'll find her in Stillglade Fane. Please, give it to her on my behalf, and ignore that person going ham on a training dummy behind us. There aren't even any Okay. Of course, our peers. You wreck that booty, or whatever it is that you think you're doing. Fell cleave, dead ass! I don't know, it seems like something ERPers would do. I need to go to still... Yeah. Fuck this shit.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. So, how long does the captain intend to keep me waiting? Does he have any idea how little time a conjurer has to spare? A gift? That Alamegan kept me waiting this long for some trinket he did not even see fit to deliver himself? Typical. These foreigners truly don't have the first idea about... Gods, it can't be. A walnut cane? And one so finely wrought, I scarce believe it man-made. To conjurers, our canes are the physical representation of our connection with the living world. They provide a focus for us to channel the forces of nature and weave spells. To possess a cane made of walnut is a dream most conjurers share, and I'm no different. I see the beauty of this cane and the heart of the woman who made it. That an outsider could craft this flawless cane, Forgive my impropriety, adventurer. I've never paid outsiders any mind, imagining them incapable of comprehending Gridanian tradition. Yet it seems that it was I who failed to comprehend. You have humbled me, adventurer, and opened my eyes. It is clear that you have worked hard to learn our ways, as has Captain Gerhard. I cannot thank you both enough. Though I do not deserve this cane, I swear that I will do my utmost to earn it. My thanks again, adventurer. Should you meet with the captain before I do, please convey my gratitude.
Yeah. A male in a position of authority giving wood to his female underling. It's never a bad thing. Never could never be misconstrued. There's no double entendre. It's purely just entendre. Is Pratinga gonna give me the wood? What are you brandishing that wooden bat for? I knew it wouldn't be easy to please her, but I never doubted Beaton's finest could deliver. I wonder, how is he? Still working too hard, I presume? So it goes. Anyway, duty calls. Thank you again. Please give my regards to the Timber Master.
Oh, has someone got the zoomies?
Welcome back, After. Was the client satisfied? Interesting. So the client was not a conjurer himself. In any case, I'm glad to hear that the intended recipient was satisfied. I must know, After. Who was this client? I only received their messenger, and I cannot fathom why they would not come in person. Gerhard? You're certain? I thought him far from Gridania on campaign. When did he return? Why would he not greet me in person? He needs to give this Beaton some wood. We've known each other for so many years. Well, I can only assume that his duties leave no time for such niceties. I am glad to hear he is home and well. Thank you for attending to his request, After. I look forward to our next meeting. Well, if it isn't After. You grow more popular with every commission. Take that walnut cane, for example. You remember, don't you? The one you crafted not long ago? In fact, it was mere minutes ago. Must have left quite the impression on Gerhard, because he has once again requested your services. This time, he would have you craft an oak longbow. A quality longbow. But I presume you already knew that. I wish he'd let me handle his quality longbow again. Been so long. It was dark like mahogany. Gerhard's squad is considered one of the finest units in the Yellow Serpents. They are oft tasked with dangerous missions which carry them deep into hostile territory, and I'd take him deep into my territory if you know what I mean. Our soldiers should never want for the best material. I trust you'll not disappoint after. Have you the longbow? Marvelous, simply marvelous. Some carpenters claim that oak is ill-suited for use in longbows, and that other woods are far preferable. But I would say you've chosen your materials well. This particular specimen's both hard and elastic, I should call him, and I see no reason to believe it will take a permanent bend. Of course, we have you to thank for that. The finest materials are nothing without a skilled craftsman to mould them. Indeed, this longbow is a testament to your ever-growing skills. Gerhard will approve. You may take it to him at the Adder's Nest. I wish Gerhard would take me... I must stop these reveries when I have company. Look, he's a carpenter that works with wood, and his name is Beaton. It is not that difficult to imagine a homoerotic subplot with his childhood friend. Ah, Arthur, do you have that longbow I requested? My word! I see my faith in you is not misplaced. I have a young archer under my command who will be thrilled to receive this. It's of critical importance that my squad keeps its weapons and armor in good shape. Our reconnaissance missions often require we spend weeks in isolation, without any form of support. In fact, we leave for our next mission on the morrow. Unfortunately, this means I must, once again, postpone my visit to the guild. If Beaton complains, just give him a piece of quality lumber on my behalf. That should provide ample distraction. He's always been more passionate about his work than anything else. Dumb bastard. But I imagine you learned that long ago. Until we meet again after. So, he just wants us to give him wood. On his behalf. Too easy. Gerhard was satisfied then. Good. Good. I wish I was satisfied. Another mission. I understand. We are both professionals with responsibilities that cannot be ignored. Even so, it always gives me cause for worry. I do not question his ability as a commander or as an archer, but irrational as it may be, I miss him and his wood. Forgive me, I am cursed with an overactive imagination. It's nothing. Never mind. We shall speak again when next I have a commission for you. Perhaps it should be a rod made of mahogany, with slight curve, and a hooded tip. No. Beaton, get it together. After you, minx! If I didn't know better, I'd say Gerhard was smitten with you. Remember when he was smitten with me? He's given you another commission, this time for an oak composite bow. In case you are unaware, such a bow can only be wielded by a master archer, with years upon years of experience in the field. Don't you see? You are to craft a bow for Gerhard himself! You are to give this commission your undivided attention. While simply crafting an oak composite bow is no small feat, I will not permit you to present anything less than perfection to my boo. Have I made myself clear? Good. Now, go. Only perfection will suffice. If you have it, then show me. Even experienced carpenters can find constructing a composite bow to be a daunting task, given the complexity of the design and the variety of materials required. But the resulting product is well worth the price. This union of wood, bone, and sinew possesses the power of a self-bow more than twice its size. This makes it ideal for archers who must travel with minimal supplies and cannot afford to carry heavier equipment. No matter how much I search, I cannot find flaw with your craftsmanship. Your materials, your execution, it is all, for want of a better word, perfect. It comforts me to know that Gerhard will wield this formidable weapon. Deliver it to him with my blessings. And this pair of my underwear. Greetings. I believe you have a delivery for me. Now this is a fine bow, worthy of the bowlord himself. The girl will be well pleased. What's that? Beaton thought it was for me. Oh, no. This is for another one of my archers. I have a perfectly serviceable bow which served me for many years. Beaton ought to know. He made it. Ah, those were the days. He the young initiate, I the aspiring serpent. He wasn't always so damn cocksure, you know. Back then he was full of doubts and questions. Full of something else, if you understand my meaning. The maple longbow he made me might not look like much to you, but to me it's the perfect weapon. I intend to use it until the day I die. Not that I intend to die anytime soon, of course. Now then, I believe I have a delivery of my own to make, if you'll excuse me. Welcome back. Was Gerhard well? What? He still uses that longbow I made as an initiate? I didn't think he kept it. But a twin-adder captain deserves a far finer weapon. I should offer to craft him a new one. Until the day I die. What nonsense. Surely that longbow's no more than a mangled stick at this point. If it were to break during battle, he'd only have himself to blame. But I cannot stand idly by while he... No, I will give this no more thought. He is an experienced soldier. He would never be so reckless. Oh, I did not realize you were still there. You may go. I have nothing else for you today. Not now, after. I have too much on my mind. I did not intend for things to become so heated. Yet Gerhard refused to listen to reason, and I... Never mind. Leave me to my work. If you still desire company, perhaps young Nikolaus will serve. He's too busy thinking about Gerhard's wood. I remember you. After, right? Let me guess, Beaton told you to go away again? He's been like that since Gerhard left. He had some commission for the guild, but Beaton wouldn't accept it because of an old bow or something? Also, I know my accent's changed. It's fine. I like to throw a new one on every now and again. There was shouting, Beaton threw him out. They were both acting like younglings. I don't know if it'll help, but maybe you should talk with Gerhard about what happened. I think he went back to the adder's nest. He was walking a bit funny, though. Leave old Beaton to me. I'll talk some sense into him. After, what brings you here? So, you heard about what happened at the guild. It is unfortunate the children bore witness to our dispute. And it is even more unfortunate that I must ask you to become involved. My request was intended for the Timber Master himself, but since he has refused me, I have no choice. I need a cobalt halberd, a jade crook, and a yew longbow. Your best quality, and as fast as possible. This equipment is required for a mission of grave import, which is why I first approached the Timber Master. But you are also a proven artisan, so I think I can safely entrust it to you. Nevertheless, I must ask that you present the finished items to Beaton for inspection. If he judges them acceptable, then I will gladly accept. I feel it necessary to apologize for my earlier behavior. It was unbecoming of a Timber Master. Ah, so you have agreed to fill Gerhard's order. Very well. Let me see what you have wrought. You chose your bow staves wisely. I see no imperfections in the yew which would interfere with performance. The rosewood reinforcements appear solid, and the sinew bowstring is of excellent quality. I have no objections to this bow, and I believe this is the first time I've judged a halberd of your creation. Fascinating weapon halberds. Did you know they were a Hellsguard invention? The Marauders first used them to repel mounted units. A skilled wielder could easily pull a rider from his saddle. As for this particular halberd, I have no criticisms. In fact, given the quality of the axe blade, I can't help but wonder if you've been studying blacksmithing. Though even if you were pursuing other disciplines, this crook proves that you have not neglected your carpentry. The luscious reddish browns of the mahogany, the entrancing greens of the jadeite. It is a true expression of Gridanian philosophy, a triumph of craftsmanship made only with the necessary materials. Bravo, After. I was wrong to deny Gerhard, but thanks to you, his squad will not suffer for my stubbornness. I only pray that he reconsiders my offer. Yes, you may proceed with the delivery. I'll be here, dreaming that mahogany crook he has. Mahogany. Beaton had no objections. Excellent. Then if you'd hand me the weapons. When we first met, the quality of your work was already impressive. I must say, though, that looking at your most recent products, it's clear even to me you've grown tremendously. Both professionally and personally. Or maybe it's more obvious when contrasted with Beaton's. No, it's hypocritical of me to say. I'm as much to blame for our squabble as he. We should just fuck and get it over with. I swear, when we fought, it was though nothing had ever changed. In any case, I thank you for your hard work. This next mission may be our most dangerous yet. It gives me great comfort to know my squad's equipped with the finest weapons. It may be some time before I see you and Beaton again. Please, give him my regards and my love. Was he pleased? Oh, once again he fails to deliver his farewells in person. Yet a soldier must serve and a carpenter must craft. These are the lives we've chosen. I tried to reason with him. I offered to replace his longbow, but he refuses to face reality. That bow will not last another moon, if even that. My fervent protestations fell on deaf ears. I allowed my temper to overwhelm me, and I said many things I now regret. When he returns to Rudania, we should have much to discuss. I pray that day comes soon. Ah, laughter. It's horrible. It's so horrible. An officer from the Adder's Nest came to speak with me. In the North Shroud, near Ixali territory, they found Gerhardt's longbow. I saw the fragments myself. It was the self-same maple longbow I made all those years ago. Which means Gerhard is... I wish to be alone right now. Go. Be with your loved ones. Or play with the younglings in the acorn orchard. He's depressed because his boy toy died. Hey, After. It's good you weren't here earlier when the Beaten heard the news. He went on a rampage in the workshop, howling like an animal and breaking anything within reach with his bare hands. I don't think we can help him this time. But if you want to try, you could give him some really, really good wood. Like, say, the best length of rosewood lumber you can make. Maybe that would work. He seems like he needs some good wood. Some good, hard wood. At least, that's what he always said Gerhard would give him. He'd give him hard wood until the cows came home, he would. Why? Why have you returned? I told you! I wish to be alone. This is an exquisite length of rosewood lumber. Truly the culmination of decades of growth and maturation. I know you mean well, After, but it is no use. My thoughts remain with Gerhard. Like a young sapling, he matured into a magnificent tree. Oh, the girth of his trunk. Only to be cut down before his... Wait, what am I saying? Gerhard was no sapling. He was one of our finest. And the scouts. The scouts found signs of a skirmish, but no bodies. Do you not see? He must still be alive! He and his squad are out there somewhere, isolated and likely low on supplies. I know for a fact that he only carries one bow, so if that weapon has been broken, matron forfend! He could be defenseless. He must needs be sent a new one straight away, but I fear I am in no condition to craft it. In my earlier foolish tantrum, I injured my hand. I was cranking it too vigorously in the corner, and have not the strength to grip a saw. You must be the one to craft Gerhard's bow. I beg of you, make him a peerless crab bow and affix to it a savage aim materia of the 3rd grade. Once finished, seek out Gerhard and his men in the North Shroud. The fragments of his old longbow were found not far from Alder Springs. If the matron is merciful, you will find him not far from there. Please, you are my one and only hope to save my boy toy. What is a twink without his bear? Hey, Scott. No tangents today. Only homoerotic subplots. The usual. Wow. Wow. You're under such threat. Look, Gerhard. There's no possible way that you could fight these things. What do you think you're doing here? Take cover, you fool. There are Ixal about. Here's a bow with Beaton's crabs. Damn it, After. This is no place for a carpenter. A bow? Did Beaton send you all this way just to deliver a bow? Yep. God bless that stubborn fool. I'll have to give him some good wood when I get back. Should have listened when he said my maple longbow was at its limits. My thanks. If it weren't for you, I don't know what I would have done. Now keep your head down. I've a chieftain to slay. No! Must have been the wind. Yes, because all battles are resolved with a single arrow. Okay, now I don't have shit. You don't want to say thanks to me. All I get was a nod. I understand. Because you're a manly man. You have no need for words. Save those words for Beaton when you're beating his wood. I could kiss you after. He lives. Gerhardt lives. I owe you a debt that can never be repaid. 1,000 times over, I thank you. You came to us as a seedling, yet now you are as a heavens pillar. There's naught else I have to teach you, unless you want to know my techniques for when Gerhard and I are in the bedroom. In fact, you've inspired me to reflect on mine own deficiencies. I think I should try topping. Minor though they may be, I would be remiss if I neglected personal development. Though you are no longer under my tutelage, I trust you'll continue to hone your craft as well. Best of luck to you after. And that's A Realm Reborn done. And just in case you forgot, there's dragons in Heavensward. Not to be too on the nose, but there's dragons in Heavensward. Yeah, after. I trust you've continued carving away at perfection in our art. I have a somewhat unusual request for you today. Finding the owner of an errant spear. A member of Grudania's finest brought it to me after discovering it during his patrol. How it ended up in the North Shroud is a mystery, but it is a fine piece of craftsmanship. The style is undeniably Ishgardian, though few could tell as much, as the spearhead is missing. To a master, however, the love of both carpenter and wielder for this weapon is obvious. The haft has been worn smooth through use, revealing the quilted pattern of the wood. It is a king amongst lances. I thanked the whaler for his help, though it is a great pity he could not find the spearhead. Regardless, it deserves to be returned to he who loved it. I know I would be distraught if I lost such a treasure. As guildmaster, my duties keep me firmly rooted here, yet you, as an adventurer, have spread your branches far and wide, hence why I have brought it to your attention. Thankfully, the lance gives us a clue as to its owner. Here, the winged crown of the Temple Knights carved upon the shaft. Of course, this only somewhat narrows the field, but a member of their order may be able to help. Judging by the age of the spear, the more veteran the better. In any case, I now leave this in your capable hands. Skyrim does not equal Heavensward. 2 dragon games all about the dragons, dragoning, and dragonkind. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, it's the one at the inn. Of course it is. Because if you didn't have a weapon, you'd be getting drunk. Oh, wait, no. No? Oh, okay, no, he's still on duty. Huh? I have been with the Temple Knights for more years than I care to remember. Outlived more than a few whelps, too. So how might I help you, lass? 7 hells take me. Haven't seen a lance like this since I was a squire. Owners like to be as old as me. Or dead. Who was that one bloke? Some fool joined the order around when I did, only to get himself killed by beastkin. Reason I remember him is because we found everything but his lance. Had a son, too. Craven lad. By the name of Bartholomew. Known to hang around the broom. Take the lance to him if you like, but if I'm right about it, I'm glad it's broken. Any lance that couldn't fend off a few beasts is no place with the Temple Knights. So you've returned after resolving your storytelling gripes with bouncing off a few other people. You think the conclusion you've come to is your low trust and fear of failing led you to needing precise logistics you can't have a chance of picking wrong. Anxiety. I get that. Aye, Bartholomew's the name. What business does an adventurer like yourself have with a lowly soldier like me? Yes, Tingles. After no politics this time. I don't know what you mean. You can discuss, but no politics. Yeah. And no no comments comparing things to current geopolitical situations. Yeah. That's fair. This is my father's spear. You say it was in the Black Shroud. I was but a boy the last time I saw this. It was the day my father rode off to battle the Horde astride his seed. His seed? Yes. His sperm was so large he could ride it into battle. My poor mother. 'Twas the day my father rode off to the battle the horde astride his steed. A fine man of the Temple Knights. Last time I saw him alive, too. So when you do immerse yourself into the world like Final Fantasy XIV or other games, you like extreme A=B=C mathematical logistics to have as a measuring stick. That's fair. You're going to hop off for a bit. Thought you should leave with the warning to not talk about politics. Yep, fair. I'll see you later, Tingles. We got his body back by and by, mangled though it was to the 7 L's. Killed by measly beastkin of all things, damn milksop. That's the way of Ishgard, adventurer. A man killed by dragons is a hero, and a man killed by beasts... Well, let's just say I have my father to thanks for the pox on my house. As I see it, my honour's mine to reclaim. I'll show the Temple Knights I'm worthy of their ranks with the only proof they'll accept. A Dravanian's corpse. I'll not fight with the spear. I've no desire to be mauled to death. Not like my father. The bow's my weapon now. Where it would be if he had a proper one to hunt dragons. You said you were a woman of the Carpenter's Guild, didn't you? Could you do it? Could you do it? Fashion me a proper composite bow, I mean. There's a sudden request, I know, but... Villa Palais? One moment, son, I'm busy. But why don't you say hello to the adventurer? Bye! You'll have to excuse the boy. It's just me and him now. I fear his manners have suffered for it. So about the Archduke Franz Ferdinand and why going back in time to protect him would save us 112 years of troubles. Look. Oh, God. The attempted assassination, or no, it was the assassination, wasn't it? The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was not the only factor leading to the First World War. It was, however, the spark that finally lit the powder keg. But yeah, there was stuff other than just Franz Ferdinand going on. Although, yes, there is a very solid argument for if the First World War didn't happen, the Second World War might not have happened. Or at the very least, it might not have involved Hitler. Because Hitler was able to unite the downtrodden people of Germany because of the massive reparations that Germany was having to make from the First World War. And the fact that parts of Germany were deliberately not being rebuilt or weren't having funding put in them to rebuild in order to punish the German people. Effectively. That's right! I know things! The British education system. It's better than America. I know things about other countries. He's a bright lad, and I'm training him to wield the bow. We'll eat for a week on the fowl he brings home, but I've got no delusions. This is a hard life. I want better for him. You thought that'd be a great funny moment of text there as a response to Patinga. Oh, it was. It was. But back to the matter at hand. I'm not a rich man, and I don't have the gil to pay for a composite bow. But given time, I can scrape a bit together, and then I'll expect your finest. Yeah, so welcome to Heavensward crafting, which is basically just doing random jobs for random fuckers in Ishgard.
Ishgard doesn't have, or at least they aren't like massively shown like guilds for the crafting disciplines, even though they do have crafters and they do have like very good craftsmen in order to like make all of the stuff for Ishgard, given that Ishgard was mostly closed off to the other city-states for, you know, decades. I mean, they have very good stonemasons. That's one thing that they definitely have. I was about to look for you. I've been checking the markets, and by my reckoning, I've enough to pay for the best holy cedar composite bow you can fashion. If you'll allow me a discount. Ishgard. We craft, but it is a Japanese bureaucratic way in which you can't just pay for our services. You have to jump through different Zaibatsu hurdles. I don't even know what that means, but sure. I had to kill a number of lesser dragons for this coin. The pay's shite, since any fool with a pointed stick can do them. Real money's in the greater Dravanians. It's where the glory lies, too. A proper bow will let me take one's head, and win my knighthood with any luck. I ask you, on bended knee, friend, accept what I can pay, and make me a fine bow. I've long dreamed of owning a fine holy cedar composite bow. Please, adventurer. Why, this light as a feather. Even in mail, my arm will never tire while holding it. And the draw weight's thrice that of my last bow. Aye. This'll fling a heavy broadhead a good 200 yards. Thank you, my friend. To tell the truth, I don't mean to hunt just any dragon. I've got a target in mind. Naguravilu. Bastard might as well be covered in steel armor. Even knights can't pierce his scales with their lances, let alone their arrows. A well-aimed shot from this bow might slide between his plates. He's woken from a long sleep, you see. Last time he did, he left a trail of corpses. Naguravilu's head will win me my knighthood, and a better life for my boy. Not that Philippelais will seize it that way. Could you call him adventurer? He's always away from home these days. Spends all his time hunting out near the manufactory. Don't mind me. Just responding to a link shell. There's a certain kind of inefficiency in Japanese banking and government agencies that makes it 10 times more difficult to change banking information or try to make large purchases. Yes, bureaucracy for the sake of bureaucracy. The British would be proud. Can't you see I'm busy hunting? These birds come into the city to avoid the wind. They're easy to catch even without a bow. I just lay out traps for them. Father wants me to come home. No! He keeps leaving to fight dragons, no matter how many times he gets hurt. I don't want to see him. Okay. Are you trying to... It looks like you're trying to catch a chocobo. I'm just saying. You might struggle a bit taking one of them home. Have you seen Connor from Trash Taste Pod discuss his experience as a visa holder in Japan trying to make a Final Fantasy XIV account? No. Is that different from Connor Dog VA? I don't really listen to... The only podcasts that I listen to are D&D podcasts, and even then I am
woefully behind on all of them. Because I listen to them to go to sleep. Which basically means that I listen to, like, the same 15 minutes of, like, a half-hour show. I think I have been on the same episode of this one podcast for about 2 months. Because I play it to go to sleep. It's the same Connor. Yeah. I've seen some stuff from Connor about what it's like being in Japan, but I don't think I've seen anything specifically around that one. No luck? Sorry to have put you through that. I just wanted to see his face before I left. No matter. I'm off to hunt. If the gods are good, I'll have slain Naguravilu by the time we meet next. He's gonna die. Is it gonna be your son here next? No, he's still here. He's still alive. Ah, after. Things did not... Well, I've not yet won my knighthood. Not on account of your bow. Why, I wager it could send an arrow clean through the greatest of dragons. But it would require the right bowman to do it. I fear I am not that bowman. I waited for the right moment and loosed the shot with all my strength, only to watch Naguravilu dodge it with ease. All I did was anger the dragon, and his ire was terrible. I ought to be dead by rights. It's a miracle that priest passed by when he did. I owe him my life, and I'll not leave that debt unpaid. But I was unsure of how I might go about it until you showed up. You're a craftswoman of no small repute. Couldn't you make the man a staff for me? He's something of a conjurer. I've no doubt he would admire your handiwork, though I can't say I know what kind of staff he'd like. You'll have to take that up with the man himself. Please, make him whatever he desires. On my honor, you will not go unpaid. Ooh, the church. Can I help you? Sent to repay me, you say? Even after I insisted I didn't need anything. Ah, well. You know how these fellows are, never happy until their honour's satisfied. Well, I shan't play coy any longer. My cane was damaged, and it's about time I had a new one. I'd welcome a dark chestnut rod, if you'd be so kind. Have you found your way to crafting a dark chestnut rod, my child? Alone above! The wood feels alive, warm, as if it still remained rooted in the ground. Why, I can attend to far more ailments now. This is a masterwork, and you mean to say that you made this, my child? I mean no offense, of course, but I expected something less than this. Philip Lay is a fine, fine boy, but when he promised to repay me for interceding on his father's behalf, I did not think he would have the means to do so. I beg your pardon? His father commissioned you? I've brought a clutch of fowl as thanks. They're good plump ones, too. Oh, Philip Lay, this is most kind of you. I very much appreciate the thought. But a growing boy needs food more than I, eh? Please, take them for yourself. What your father sent was thanks enough. Father sent thanks? My father? Indeed, my dear boy. He's an honourable man. Like father, like son, eh? Now, I must be going. There are many and more who need tending, and I'm itching to try out the staff. I'll only keep you all. Oh, and pass along my thanks to both of you, if you please.
I'm the one who told the monastic, you know. Told him my father might get hurt fighting the dragon. But don't you dare tell father I did. Knowing I asked for help would only shame him. If only he'd stop this nonsense on his own. P.
Did the priest like it? I'll wager he did at that. You made it, after all. It's not much, but here, your payment. Now, I'm off to practice. I'm no true archer just yet. That almost cost me my life, but no matter what, I'll not suffer that dragon to live.
Now, if you were to think back to A Realm Reborn, if you were to be tasked with rewriting Minfilia to where her exit at the end is more painful, how would you go about it? Honestly, it would just be having Minfilia not just be in the Waking Sands. I know that she isn't, like, 100% of the time, but the vast majority of when we deal with her, she's in the Waking Sands. If she was out and about in the world more, I think it would have made it a lot easier. Especially like when we were dealing with Sid, when he was masquerading as the monk, having Minfilia like come along and interacting more there would have been good. I think there's a lot of stuff that is missed out on if you didn't know 1.0 as well. It's one of the only events that felt like it had no build-up or payoff, but we're expected to treat it as a tragedy. Well, like, you've got to remember that A Realm Reborn has had something like 40 quests taken out of it for the MSQ, and there's been massive changes to the duties and quests, like even just what is considered a quest, or what is considered a duty, since A Realm Reborn. And Minfilia and Philomene were characters in 1.0, and they had their own stories in 1.0. One of my biggest issues with A Realm Reborn, other than the fact that it's just a fucking slog, is the fact that it almost completely ignores 1.0, but it kind of also lends itself to assuming the players know 1.0. I mean, I think the only exception to that is Louis Soir. Because Louis Soir, you hear a lot about him. You hear a lot about what he did. To you, Dawntrail's more of a slog because of the editing. Base Dawntrail feels more like a slog than all of post ARR. I think A Realm Reborn and post A Realm Reborn, they are just... There is so much stuff there, and not all of it is stuff that needs to be there. Dawntrail, yeah, there's some like, I don't like the writing in it, especially the first half. But at the same time, it didn't feel that bad. It's a difference of 9 hours of cutscenes. What, between post ARR and all of Dawntrail? But what about, like, when I'm talking about ARR, I mean like all of ARR. In fact, when I first was talking about it, I didn't even mean post ARR patches. I just meant ARR. It's a slog. And there's a lot of stuff in it that doesn't really feel relevant anymore. Or that could be delivered in a lot more of a succinct way. Whereas there is some bits like that in Dawntrail, but for the most part, not really. Dawntrail, I just have issues with the writing. Not necessarily with its content. If that makes sense. Like, going on the pilgrimage and dealing with each of the different tribes, finding out how it is that they operate and appreciating their cultures, it makes sense from the story that they are telling, especially given that one of the entire driving points for us to want to learn about Thrall is because it's a bunch of different people that are coexisting, and we want that for Eorzea and the rest of the world. So we're trying to learn the model that works for them to then adapt it for the rest of the world as the Scions. ARR, including post-ARR, is about 9 hours of cutscenes versus 15 to 16 hours of Dawntrail. Is that just including voiced content, though? Because there wasn't as much voiced content in ARR because it was ARR. Whereas by Dawntrail, you've got more voiced content because they kind of know that it's working. And they know that there's more of a demand for voiced content. Cutscenes include whenever it fades to black and shows a scene. I presume that means voiced content then. Not moist content, Scott. Voiced. Although sometimes I've seen how people react to Thancred and Urianger. So some voiced content might also be moist content for certain people, but that's not what I meant. Voiced and unvoiced. But if it included unvoiced, I don't really understand there's not a lot of unvoiced content where you don't pick the pace of it, I suppose, unless you did the auto completing. Most of A Realm Reborn's quests just generate text on the bottom of the screen and don't interrupt gameplay. I mean, potentially, yeah. I mean, the way that they've delivered, it doesn't fade to black and show camera. So yeah, if you're assuming, like, I don't know what your definition of
cutscene is, but it seems that your definition is excluding a lot of content from A Realm Reborn that would have been equivalent to stuff in Dawntrail, just it's being delivered in a slightly different way because the game has evolved and gotten better at storytelling since ARR. Yeah, like, A Realm Reborn is considered a slog by most people. But I can appreciate that there might be more cutscenes by whatever definition that is. I just think that's a really woolly definition to do a comparison between A Realm Reborn and pretty much any of the other expansions. Because if it's dialogue, then if you could take the unvoiced dialogue from A Realm Reborn that you have to click to progress, you could determine how long that takes based on the auto proceed dialogue option, and then you could compare that against like Dawntrail from when it's voiced and it proceeds at its pace. That, I suppose, would be a relatively fair comparison. But yeah, I think it's just that A Realm Reborn had a lot more content that you had to read yourself. And that's even after they've cut out a lot of stuff. But I still think that A Realm Reborn's story is less optimized than Dawntrail, just from like a pacing perspective. I don't like early Dawntrail's story, but that's because of the writing, not so much because of the broad strokes of what we're doing. For you just started feeling more padding near the latter half of Endwalker. I mean, Endwalker had a little bit of a weird order when everything required a cutscene. Well, that's because you were ramping up to the big climactic moments of not just an expansion, but the entire saga. So that they needed to deliver a lot of heavy story stuff. And the best way to deliver that, usually, is via cutscene. So I'm not surprised that there were more cutscenes in the latter half of Endwalker. I do think that the fact that you deal with Zodiac really early in Endwalker kind of makes things a bit weird after that, because like this is the big thing that you've sort of been building up over multiple expansions of like, oh, okay, this is what's going on, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, we did that, now what? Which I suppose is just subverting expectations, but it kind of left me confused as to where we were going to go next after dealing with Zodiac. Most of A Realm Reborn was more like Cataclysm from WoW. I've never played WoW, so nyong.
where the quests could be speed read and accepted, fight the 3-4 things, then move on with the highlight moments, such as attack on the Waking Sands or breaking the Scions out of Castrum Sentry. Right. So what you mean is that the story was largely skippable and forgettable and didn't matter. So if you did try and make it matter and try and read it, then it was a slog. No, it was at your own pace. I don't... Your description does not match the words. Like, taking a story at your own pace is more like you've got a main quest that you can choose to progress however you want. But then there's loads of side content, which most MMOs have. Like, you can't... The saying that you've got quests that you can just speed read through and kind of not pay attention to until there's big key moments. That's not taking stuff at your own pace. That's just a story that doesn't really mean anything until you reach these certain milestones. In which case, you could cut out the bits that don't really mean anything and just keep those milestones. And the story would be largely unchanged. That's different from doing something at your own pace. And that's the main draw in my mind that Final Fantasy has over WoW is in WoW, largely, the story doesn't matter. Like, don't get me wrong, there's shit tons of lore in WoW. If you give a shit about it. A lot of people don't give a shit about it, and they just skip through stuff. And they're just playing for the content. Whereas in Final Fantasy, I think you get a lot more people that actually play for the story. Because the story is more engaging. Like, massive, massive generalizations. I just think that A Realm Reborn is... A Realm Reborn could still take a lot of optimization. There's a lot of stuff in it that doesn't need to be there, that doesn't really provide any context for anything, and that I personally feel assumes that the player has some understanding of 1.0 for why certain characters matter, because of, like, you end up caring about those characters. Like, you end up caring about Sid because of all the other stuff that we do with him, but you're sort of supposed to care about him more when he's first introduced because of the events of 1.0, but there's no way to actually experience that unless you were there for 1.0. I would have liked a series of blue quests where you could go back and, like, go through the main beats of the character stories from 1.0, and at the end of it you unlocked a glam set so that you could look like them. I think something like that would have gone a long way to making players care more about certain characters, like especially the Scions in A Realm Reborn. By and large, the Scions don't actually matter. Like, Urianger is really hard to give a shit about. Thancred is kind of, I mean, that it may be me projecting, but Thancred's kind of lovable. But like Ida and Papalymo are kind of forgettable with how they come about in 1.0. Minfilia you don't really connect with. Philomene is almost like just this cameo character practically, but there's no context for it. We know nothing about Louis Soir other than what the twins and the Scions tell us. Whereas he was such a massive part of 1.0 that, I mean, I know there is that one quest that goes into Louis Soir's history. I've not played it. I should do that at some point. But, like, Louis Soir is almost hidden under a rug as well, despite the fact that he comes back and has a, like, especially with Coils. Coils is massively rooted in 1.0. So much so that two of the bosses are, you know, they are characters from 1.0. And it's difficult to really care about at least one of them. One of them you have absolutely zero context for unless you played 1.0. They give you a tiniest snippet of context from doing the Coils quests, but otherwise, like, you don't really appreciate who the fuck they are unless you played 1.0. And Coils gives context to Alizé's mission. Coils fleshes out Alizé, because all of A Realm Reborn, Alizé is like brushed over and isn't fleshed out at all. Alphino gets slightly more character development, and even then Alphino doesn't get much in A Realm Reborn. He gets it more in the post A Realm Reborn with the Crystal Braves. But Alizé gets fucking nothing until like Stormblood, unless you do Coils, in which case she starts to actually feel like a human rather than just, oh, we wanted to have twins. One of them will be male, one of them will be female. Let's focus on the male. Because patriarchy. But yeah, like, let us go back to the Crystal Tower and go back in time to do some 1.0 story. That I would personally like that. Just like a curated solo instanced story where you go through and you just do the main beats of the character storylines and have a reward, like for doing Hall of the Novice. Yeah, have it be that, oh, you get their glam, or you get, you know, something related to them, even if it was just a t-shirt with their fucking face on it. I don't know. Get Sid. I don't think you ever get Sid's outfit, actually. It might be a cash shop one. I know most of them are on the cash shop. I don't know if Sid's is. But like, or have it be them, a minion of them. I know that we've now got the minions from everywhere else, but if they'd done this like in A Realm Reborn as part of post ARR, it would have made a lot of sense. It would have made the story much more accessible to people. Yeah, Sid's outfit is probably in the item shop. That was just more of a feeling. It was right about the time gathering materials for Talos and Mount Gulg that every single quest required like a 6 to 9 minute cutscene. You started getting on your nerves because you had the brevity of A Realm Reborn in the back of your mind. Okay, could pick your own pace in as much as that you could click through dialogue as quick as you wanted. I think that only makes sense if you're skipping it, or if you have a really fast reading speed, in which case fair enough, but that doesn't necessarily replace stuff that's voiced, because I'm quite quick at reading things. When I am reading stuff aloud, I am a hell of a lot slower than when I just read it myself. Which is why it has taken me so long to get through certain things in 14. But again, Shadowbringers, you sort of expect it in any game. You sort of expect that perhaps you have quite a few cutscenes at the beginning for why I setting everything up. Why am I giving a shit about this? What is the story? What are my motivations? What is this world? Maybe less in the middle, and it's more gameplay, and then at the end you'd expect more cutscenes again to be like, hey, all of those things that we told you to give a shit about and care about, here's the resolution to that. You know? That's kind of just storytelling. Modern storytelling. And because the game has been more successful, they've been able to voice more stuff. Whereas in A Realm Reborn, they'd literally just come from the failing of 1.0. Anyway, back to reading. I'm glad of the chance to see you after. Since last we spoke, I've spent every spare moment at the butts. I'm now confident that I'm worthy of your weapon, and with some luck I'll be able to lay Naguravilu low. In fact, I'd have already left to do so, but the bow's gone missing. Haven't seen Philippale today either. You don't think... Quickly, help me search. I'll look for the boy around the broom if you take the holy stables. It's why you remember Livia kicking the Sylph, because it was a highlight of A Realm Reborn and us jumping onto the airship after breaking people out of Castrum Sentry. But in Shadowbringers, there's a lot of fluff cutscenes you could see being cut in favor of click-through dialogue, and letting the fade to black cutscenes be more valuable than just talking. The issue is that A Realm Reborn, a lot of its story didn't actually matter. Like, you could take maybe a dozen, 24 key points from the entirety of A Realm Reborn and have those be cutscenes, and it would make sense. Like, you'd still be able to follow the majority of the story. Whereas because it's building off of stuff, especially in Shadowbringers and Endwalker, where it's so much about the stuff that you've done before sort of developing and then coming to an end, that in order to deliver that story so that the people that maybe weren't paying attention earlier or that haven't touched that content for 5 years can be reminded of what the story is and then take it forward. Like, that's just, again, modern storytelling. You have to bear in mind that we are in the age where TV shows and films are deliberately being written as second screen viewing, where something happens and then the characters talk about the thing that happened, so that if you're on your phone or playing a game, you can still follow what's going on. Yeah, and I've already mentioned that they cut something like 40 quests. They've cut duties. They've streamlined shit tons of stuff. Like Cape Westwind used to be a duty. Steps of Faith, I know that's technically Heavensward, but that used to be its own duty. There used to be more like instanced stuff as well, I think. There's been all sorts of changes to streamline A Realm Reborn because it can take it, and it could take more, in my opinion. Like, I like that you get a different start to the MSQ depending on which city you have as your origin, depending on what class you start as. I like that. Do any of those actual stories matter up until the point where you become the emissary at level 15 or whatever and are going between the different city-states and you meet the rest of the Scions and all the rest of it? No. Kind of by virtue of the fact that they're all different individual stories to that thing. But like, it would have been nice to have had more involvement with the Yellow Jackets in the and the Maelstrom in Limsa Lominsa, more interactions with the Twin Adders and everything in Gridania. Like, build up the Grand Companies so that we give a shit about them more. Build up the relevant Scions more so that we give a shit about them. It doesn't really do a great job of that. And so those could be streamlined, I think. Those could be made better. The fact that most of the stuff involving Sid before he regains his memories or whatever it was that happens is very forgettable. Like, there's a lot of shitty fetch questy stuff still. And I don't think that adds much of anything, personally. It's just differences in what you appreciated, you guess. You're a bit of a weirdo, you reckon. Is, like, I understand your opinions. I understand where you're coming from. Doesn't mean that I have to agree with them. Opinions are like assholes. We all have one, and we shouldn't always show them to people. But in my mind, most of the complaints that you've been describing aren't necessarily issues with Final Fantasy XIV itself. It's more of an issue with storytelling devices in modern games. And because Final Fantasy XIV has evolved with each expansion and with how it tells its story and the type of story it's trying to tell, it's perhaps more evident in FF14 just because it's a long-running game that has that kind of stuff when compared to like a standalone game. Like, if you were to try and compare it to any of the other main number Final Fantasies that aren't MMOs, like, the way that they tell a story is going to be very, very different because it's very much so a product of its time when it was made. But if you compared Final Fantasy VII original to Final Fantasy VII remake, very, very fucking different ways of delivering the same story, to the point that Final Fantasy VII is no longer one game, it's now 3. I mean, there's other reasons why it's now 3 games, and Final Fantasy 1 was split, not 1, Final Fantasy VII was originally split across 4 discs. But, like, they're very different ways of telling the same story, where 7 Remake focuses a lot more on cutscenes because that's what the modern gamer has come to expect, and that's how the modern gamer likes to be told their stories. Whereas the OG had, it was almost, no, 7 was entirely text based. There was no voicing. And everything like that. You guess it's the movification of gaming you've grown tired of. Yeah, and that's fair. That's a personal preference. And that's valid. But it's just being aware that that isn't something unique to FF14. Like, that is a ubiquitous thing across the games industry. And that's from the games industry evolving to its consumers' tastes, because gaming, by and large, has become a lot more mainstream over the last 20 and 30 years compared to what it was. And so it's become a much more invested in industry as well. And we are in the last like 10, 15 years, we're now at a point where there are films being made based on games because the games were so successful. Whereas before, you would have had games made of films. I mean, we still have that now, but like, it was unheard of to have a film based on a game 30 years ago. Okay, maybe not entirely unheard of, because I am just remembering the original Mario Brothers live-action movie. Yeah, that was a thing. Jesus. When was that? That must have been like late 90s, early noughties, right? Not the Super Mario Bros. Movie. No, yeah, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, 1993. It's older than me. Okay, that's older than I thought. I thought it was later in the 90s. Jesus. Because you remember how in Half-Life you could shoot the people telling you exposition if you wanted to. The merger of gameplay and story integration where pacing was always respected. You had 2 hours to game, you had 2 hours of button pressing. You're older by it. Yeah, like, I get you still have games that will do exposition where you keep character autonomy, but there are issues with when games let you do that, where if you're not paying attention, you might miss the thing that's happening because you might be facing the wrong way. You might be doing something you might not realize the importance of what you're going through. Whereas when it is a defined cutscene, you're more likely to pay attention to what's going on, or you've got the fixed camera angle so you can be guaranteed to see the things that the developers wanted you to see, and all of that stuff. So like, there's pros and cons to both methods. There are definitely still games that have that kind of storytelling. Like, I'm a massive fan of Dark Souls, which has an even more different style of storytelling, that is a lot more sort of on the consumer's onus. Like, if you want to learn about Dark Souls lore, you have to want to learn about it. Whereas if you don't give a shit, you can go through that game barely understanding fucking anything about the world and the characters in it. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in the gaming industry, and has been for a while. But yeah, by and large, most games are moving more to cutscene based exposition because it is easier to guarantee that your viewers will be able to focus on the thing that you want them to, rather than them trying to break a random pot in the corner of the room whilst the big bad evil guy is delivering his manifesto to the protagonist, and stuff like that. That's a bow. If he doesn't have this bow, he can't leave. Villapale! What in the seven hells were you thinking? Why'd you have to fight Naguravilu? What if you don't come back this time? What then? Son, I will come back. Why do you think I took up the bow? The dragon can't hurt me if he can't hit me. Like he didn't hit you last time? You'd be dead if I hadn't told the priest. What's that? I told him. I begged him to help so you wouldn't. You could have died. Villapale. I never knew you were so worried. But you've got to understand that there's no other path to knighthood for me. Without the dragon's head, we've got no future. You deserve more than this life, son. I like this life. I don't want you to die, Father. Son. Father, if you really must fight him, then find a safer way. If there were one, we'd all be dragon slayers. Have you even tried? My snares catch birds. Couldn't a large trap catch a dragon? Then you could kill it with ease. I suppose so, We need the right kind of wood, but Arthur could help with that, couldn't you? It's the best idea I've heard so far. Some might call me a craven, but I can take that for the boys' sake. Let's give it a try. Can't leave them all alone, like I was. We'll need your help, and good lumber. For Naguravilu, I'd say 3 lengths at least. Do you know what won't splinter, even when holding a livid dragon? What about your Timbermaster? Wouldn't he know? It's something you related to Heavy in a video by a content creator when he said after a long day and spending an hour of his time gaming and having like 50 minutes of cutscenes, not even needing to pick up a controller. Well, like, that is an understandable concern, but it's not like every game is like that, and generally, like, you have an idea of, if you just wanted an hour of, like, mindless fun, there's plenty of games that can give you that. If you want a narrative-driven, story-based game, you need to accept that there's gonna be moments where the narrative is being delivered to you through whichever medium they take, where you're gonna have to pay attention to that. Like, whether it's 50 minutes of voiced cutscenes or 50 minutes of reading dialogue, that's still 50 minutes that you're not playing the game. And that's something that has been around as long, like, before there was even graphics, when it used to be text-based RPGs. So is that qualms about how the story is being delivered, or is that a byproduct of the immediate gratification nature that society lives in nowadays, where you can order something off of Uber Eats and have it delivered to you within an hour, you can order something off of Amazon and have it the next day, you can play a video game and be right into the action in 5 minutes, or you could have to order something that takes a few weeks to get to you. You could get a recipe that needs you to spend the time cooking and making it and getting all the ingredients for it. There's stories where you might need to go through a bunch of exposition to understand why you give a shit about what's happening, rather than just, evil thing, kill. Like, massively, massively simplified. But there's different ways of looking at it.
It's not necessarily a unique problem that you might only have an hour to play a game, and in that hour you mostly get exposition. Like, that's... For a story-driven game, that's not necessarily anything new. Whereas, if you wanted to play a game that was gameplay-driven, like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Tomb Raider, like, these were games where the story didn't really matter. You just needed, here, get this MacGuffin. This boss is getting in the way of you getting that MacGuffin. Kill the boss. But then later games had more story. A snare? For a dragon? Ashgardian spears led you to unexpected places, it seems. Well, I can tell you a greenwood best suits your needs. The dragon's ire will destroy aught less pliable. New-cut timber can freeze, however. You must needs find a type resistant to cold climes. Nothing readily jumps to mind, but I do know a botanist who works in the cold of Curthus. He goes by the name of Reuterloin, and you'll find him at Skyfire Locks. He's an expert of sorts, and I suggest you consult with him. That's nostalgic. You just saw a Hyuran monk in Ishgard. That was you a couple of years ago. You wanted to punch the Pope for the meme. Yeah, it would have been nice to have been able to fight the Pope as the Pope. I kind of wish that before you fight Thordan, you got to just, like, bitch slap the Pope a few times. Out to trap a dragon, eh? Well, you certainly don't want for ambition. I believe birch would be best for your purposes. The wood doesn't share the beauty of oak or teak, but has no equal when it comes to flexibility. Moreover, it absorbs little moisture as a greenwood and will not turn brittle by freezing. It's a very cold kitty. You started as a white mage, but when you saw the obvious villain's a Pope, you had the urge to punch, so you picked up Monk. Yeah, like, Heavensward's story is kind of painted immediately. As soon as you, like, get into Ishgard, I think you see the Ascian talking to the Pope, so you know that the Pope's not going to be a good guy. You can kind of assume that the dragons aren't all bad, partly by association of the Pope isn't all good. And because you've got Ysael, you don't necessarily know that you're going to end up in Azisla. But you can kind of tell that it's more the humanoids' fault that the war has been going on as long as it has. And that you're probably going to have to punch the Pope from probably the first, like, hour of Heavensward. But yeah, I started out as a white mage. White mage was my main. And then I tried out Scholar as another healer.
then I stopped playing. This being when Heavensward was still new. And I stopped playing until Shadowbringers was coming out. Started a new character. Was a white mage main again. Then I started this character, where, unless I'm mistaken, I started out as a white mage again. I'm pretty sure I did. I'm pretty sure I started as a white mage. Even on this one. Did I? Playlists. The first stream was 10 hours long. Jesus. I was just a baby. I was just a baby. I know I started in Gridania. Yep, I started as a conjurer, even on this character. So I think every time that I have started a character that was gonna be like more than just a brief one-off, I've started as a conjurer. Which makes sense, given that I am, even though I don't necessarily play healer that much, I definitely don't play white mage. I haven't played white mage in a long time. But I am a healer main. I like to play support. It's just that recently I've largely been playing tank because especially in later content, basically after Heavensward, it's a lot easier to dictate the pace as a tank with a shit healer than it is to dictate the pace as a good healer with a shit tank. Like, a shit tank is going to be a problem no matter how good you are as a healer, whereas a good tank is going to be good almost regardless of the healer, especially in Endwalker and later. Before that, you still kind of need the healer, unless you're a warrior, in which case as soon as you have raw intuition, the healer can pretty much get fucked. But maybe that's why I main warrior. Literally, like, thinking about the different roles, my mains at the minute are Sage, warrior, and then probably Viper. You're a terrible healer. Yeah? You put yourself to the test if the gameplay of this game was good enough. But if you were aware that healers only had one damage button, and it could be still engaging enough, you were committing money to it. Yeah. Because, like, healers generally, like, you are still expected to do damage, but obviously that's not the main focus of healing, and most duties are, if you're doing them, like, and not necessarily dungeons, but, like, at least during bosses or trials or raids and stuff like that, nine times out of 10, the healer is gonna be relatively busy healing, pre-shielding, mitting, doing all of the other stuff in their toolkit. The damage isn't as important.
A good healer should still be doing some damage, but you're never going to do as much damage as the DPS. So it's if I had the choice between a good healer that does good heals but doesn't do much damage, or a healer that does good damage but doesn't do good heals, I'm going to take the heals over the damage every time. Because DPS adjust. If the fight takes one extra raid wide to kill it, the healer can heal that. Nothing happens. Whereas if you're skipping mechanics and then the healer isn't doing a good enough job, you can potentially still wipe. Possibly controversial opinion, as someone that doesn't competitively raid. And here you are in Praetorium counting the amount of Medica 2s you don't have to cast. I mean, yeah. The issue is anything before, I think it's level 56, is when most of the tanks get their big sustain. I know that 56 or 58 is when you get Raw Intuition as a warrior. I think Clemency is around that same period as well. I forget for Dark Knight, and Gunbreak is a little bit different because it's 1, 2, 3 has the shield and heal on the second hit, which makes it massively, massively different than all of the other tanks purely because of that. Because if you need more sustainability, you just do the 1, 2, 1, 2. Whereas every other tank has to do 1, 2, 3. Gunbreaker has Aurora at level 50. Right, so Gunbreaker is a little bit different, but obviously you don't get Gunbreaker until you've gotten a character to level 60. So yeah, Gunbreaker is a little bit different. But yeah, I think it's around 56 that all the other ones get their main healing move for self-sustain. So anything under that level, the healers are going to have to do more. Anything after that, healers are not necessarily going to have to do as much, especially for warrior, as long as there's more than one enemy. Like, warrior is the king of trash pulls. So a great healer just cuts the kill time by minutes by how much damage you can contribute, but it's just one button. Yeah, because healer isn't meant to be engaging because of the combat. It's meant to be engaging from all the other stuff that you can do. Whereas DPS is engaging because of the damage that you do. Tank is engaging more because of all of the mitigations that you have, than necessarily just the damage that you do. You can still do some good damage as a tank. It's not the focus of that class. If you go into a healer expecting to do loads of damage, you're going into the healer wrong. Don't get me wrong, healers can do a lot of damage. Just, if that's your expectation going into the class, you're probably going in expecting the wrong thing. Anyway, you can tell that I'm so invested in the Carpenter quest lines. Have you had any luck finding the proper lumber? Birch, eh? If it's as flexible as you say, Nagura Villa won't be able to break free. Aye, I think I can build a fine trap out of this. No doubt you went to some trouble. Here, have this. It's not much, but hopefully it shows my thanks. Now let's see if I can't get that dragon, eh? Had him right in the trap, writhing. But I made a stupid mistake. True, Naguravilu couldn't force his way out, but, well, never took him for a fire breather. Of course, I loosed arrows like a madman when he broke free, but my arrows just bounced off his scales, so I fled, like I promised Philippiles. But I'm not done yet. This experience has taught me that I don't know Naguravilu as I ought to. He must have a weak spot, and I mean to find it. I'd like your help, if you're willing. His armor's the problem. I've got to figure out how to pierce it. And he thrashed about in the trap enough that I'm wagering he left a scale behind. Could you go and examine the wreckage? It's in the convictory now. Give the soldier there my name and he'll let you have a look. We'll discuss a strategy when you return. At the moment, I'd like to spend some time with the boy. Boy! You're the tangent to my sign. Oh. I didn't co-sign on this. Where's the convictory? Oh, Falcon. It's in Western. That makes sense. I didn't co-sign off this metaphor. I have so much crap in my inventory now. Can that go? Yeah, that can go in the armoire. Cool. And we still have a couple of things to turn in. Welcome back, Tingles. With dinner and a bath taken. Oof. Squeaky clean, ready for the... well, it's not raid. It's going to be extremes, but... you know what I mean. Bath of you. Ah, the trap. Made that into firewood, I did. It's freezing here. Found a spearhead, though. Stuck in the dragon, most like. Have it. Can't burn it, can I? Oh my god, it's the spearhead that his dad had. Who could have seen that coming? Ow! After needs a trigonometry-themed merch shirt with the word tangent going into protractor and scattered like a prism. What are we eating? This is a good question from Gwyd. What was dinner? It will be raid equivalent. Yes. Yes. Raid light. I can't believe it's not raid. Well, did you find Naguravilu's scale? No, but I found something better. It's your daddy's. 7 L's after. Remember my father's spear? This is its spearhead. This can only mean he fought Naguravilu. That means Naguravilu killed him. My father died a knight's death. Father must have driven his lance into Naguravilu. It stayed in the dragon's body, even through this 20-year sleep. When the dragon awoke, he flew somewhere over the shroud where the shaft fell. Only the spearhead remained. By finding the pieces of the lance, we've learned the truth, but fate's been even kinder than that. It's given us a way to kill Naguravilu too. Somewhere between the dragon's scales is an open wound. The spearhead long lodged there will have kept it agape. If I send an arrow into it, can I hit such a target? If I miss... no, I cannot risk it. Only the lance will serve here. No! Please don't, Father. It's too dangerous. Grandfather fought Naguravilu with a lance and died. You barely escaped last time, and only because you were using a bow. I can end this with one thrust, Philippile. Besides, I'm better with the spear, and I've got an ally your grandfather didn't have. After, She can fashion me a spear, finer than my father's. I won't lose, son. I can't lose.
Fine! Die! See if I care!
Son, I'm sorry, but my mind's made up. After, I need a new lance. My father's was furite, but I wish for an adamantite trident. It's worth the gil, even to dip into my reserve coin. If it allows me to clear my father's sullied name, you can name your price. I'll have Naguravilu's life for my father's. Aye, this is what I need. A spearhead keen as a dragon's claw, and a sturdy haft welcoming to the hand. Even for you, this is better than I dreamed. To slay Naguravilu, I'll have to drive this into his heart through the wound my father left. I've no doubt I can do so with this. I'll lie in wait for the Dravanian where he hunts, to the north of the Convictory. But I've got one last request to make of you. Philippale will be sulking around the holy stables. Please, tell him why I'm doing this. That I'll be coming home. Bolognese and some bread, because you were lazy for pasta or rice. And Gwyd and Scott had chicken, bacon, pesto, creamy pasta. That sounds pretty good. Hey, it's almost like a sloppy Joe then. That's true, yeah. Bolognese is similar to a chili con carne. Loosely. That'd be a great shirt, though, no? It definitely wouldn't be a bad shirt. You know what's been a rather silly pet peeve of you? Every expansion has the capital Aetheryte be named the same as the city, but not Ishgard, it's the Foundation. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, after darling, sloppy joes are not chili. Every time I've had a sloppy joe, it's been chili, even when I was in America. What is a sloppy joe if not chili? I do live in the UK. Correct. But I lived and worked in America for 5 months. If you had one in America that was chili, you didn't have a sloppy joe. I mean, fair enough, it was whilst I was working at a summer camp. But it was still basically chili. It was sweet, though. Like, a really sweet chili. I wouldn't have called it a good chili. But I would have called it a chili. It is defined as a loose meat sandwich. I've got X's that I would define as a loose meat sandwich. Ah yes, the sweet food in America, who would have guessed? It's ground beef in a tomato sauce with onions and Worcestershire sauce generally, but it's very much not chili. For one, chili requires beans to actually be a chili. True. True. That's fair. But the thing is that in order to make a sloppy joe into chili, all you would need is spices and beans. By that definition. It's sweet only because ketchup's usually used in the sauce. They're not always terribly sweet. Yeah, but I was working at a summer camp that had kids midweek, so they would have used really shit ingredient. Put it this way, the camp that I worked at had kids midweek and adults on the weekends, and I used to dream about the Caesar salad on the weekends because the food during midweek was just that crap, and I was that desperate for good veggies. Like that was the time when I learned to appreciate veggies. Because I went midweek basically living off of fucking sloppy joes and chicken nuggets, and then on the weekend it would be like, actual food, fiber. You're correct, but not for Americans. It doesn't need beans. I mean, you are fighting with someone that would know. So there are people that would make chili without beans, but that's definitely not like a recognized chili. I think even like Midwestern chili has beans, because chili isn't it was cowboy food, yeah. And chili con carne, which is meat, chili with meat, has beans, because the beans were the thing that you would have had. And from Michigan, you have Coney dogs that doesn't use beans for chili when you put it on hot dogs. Yeah, I wouldn't think that the chili that goes on chili dogs would be real chili. Although now I'm trying to think of something else like that just because it's used as like a topping, it wouldn't be considered in the same bracket if it wasn't a topping. Because like pulled pork that you get on a lot of stuff is usually still pulled pork. It's just not a very good version of it that you'd want to have on its own. To be fair, you think the chili dogs at Sonic have beans, but it's been a couple years. Love a bit of Sonic. Scott's corrected you, it does not. I wouldn't have thought that Sonic chili would have had it. Curry? I mean, the thing is that curry is basically just spiced. Like, curry is such a broad culinary thing that I don't think you can really have something that wouldn't be considered a curry. You would just have a good curry and a bad curry. Especially given that, like, curry isn't even just Indian. You've also got, like, the Japanese version of curry, which is much sweeter. And then you've got, like, the Thai curry, which is got very, very different flavor profile to anything that you'd find in India and stuff like that. The UK before curry, everything's potato and lamb. UK after curry, suddenly flavor for the first time. Well, so, no. We also had fish. But you are right that it was when, I think it was after the second... No, it presumably would have been after establishing the empire over India. We started to bring curry over and the spices. I think it may have been linked to one of the world wars, though, that when you had a lot of immigration from India and Pakistan and places like that, that curry shops, curry restaurants started to actually become more of a thing and more widespread, and that did lead to the British palate expanding because we got used to these spices that
we would have only been exposed to in baked goods. Like, we consider like cloves, mace, cinnamon, and things like that to be, we still call them baking spices or Christmas spices. We didn't necessarily think of them as like seasonings for other dishes as much. But then when you had all of those like Eastern or no, I suppose it would have been Western Asian, Central Asian, come over, they expanded us, and that's when you started to get like curry sauce at fish and chip shops, because fish and chip shops have been around since the 1800s. It's not all pie, mash, and peas. But yeah, you had fish and chip shops that then started to serve. Originally, it was a spiced gravy, and then that has developed. There's still, to the north of the UK, you'll still get fish and chips with gravy. It's more of like a northern thing, generally. But their curry sauce is quite a common thing with fish and chips as well. But it's very much so not like a curry that you would have anywhere else. Like, you wouldn't get the curry sauce that you have at a fish and chip shop in a curry house. It's very much so, it's like its own thing with fish and chips. But we didn't used to have potatoes. Potatoes came from America. Came from Peru. I don't entirely... It would have been beets. Beets and turnips, I imagine. Would have been more the staple diet. 'Cause we have a lot of beets in the UK. And turnips and stuff like that, and radishes would have potentially come from Europe as well. Whereas like the potato is very much so, it's a product of the Americas. Yeah, we would have had gourds, courgettes and things like that, but those are very much so like a summer thing. I'm not sure what would have been the main carb over winter, other than like beets and turnips would have stored really easily. Parsnips, given that you don't want to harvest a parsnip until after the first frost. Wheat came over from the Middle East, but I think we would have had barley and stuff like that. We would have had some kind of a grain before. So before the Mayflower, UK had no potatoes. Pretty much, yeah. Potatoes origin point is from South America, usually considered to be from Peru, which is why Peru still has loads of heritage potato breeds that basically only exist in Peru anymore. It's just that the potato is so easy to grow, so versatile, and so versatile as an ingredient that it spread really easily. Yeah, bread probably would have been the carb, but it would have been bread made from originally from other grains than wheat, because I think wheat came from the Fertile Crescent in the Middle East as an origin point. It's like before we became this sort of global food market of trading things from one region to the other and growing things that weren't native and all of that stuff. Corn, I believe, came from the Americas as well. I don't think... Because maize was Mayan in heritage. Yeah, like I'm not saying that they wouldn't have made bread. I'm just saying they would have made bread out of something other than wheat. Like they would have had oats. I think they would have had oats. Maybe sorghum or rye. I don't know where sorghum and rye originate from. But they would have had some kind of a grain. Maybe millet. Millet's an old grain that we don't really talk about anymore. But they had some kind of a grain that they would have ground into flour and made bread from. Yeah, whereas the US has like 3 palettes. You have the Latin, New England, and Central Europe influx of the most evil foods, sauerkraut and cabbage. I would have said that you had more... Originally, when it was still the colonies, you would have had the Latin, Mexican, bearing in mind that Texas, New Mexico, and a lot of those states that are now considered the south of the USA were originally parts of Mexico. There's a large Mexican kind of influence. You have the Caribbean and Creole influence, which a lot of that is stuff that came over from Africa. You do have a lot of Asian influence in California, but I think that more comes about from the railways and then from immigration from the wars. You have a Germanic and sort of more Central European approach, which probably came over from the Dutch more than anything, because the Dutch had massive trading routes with pretty much the entire fucking world. And then, yeah, you have New England, which obviously would have been influenced by the English, but the English were already being influenced by the French, the Dutch, and everything else. During colonial times, most of the current states would have been native cuisine, actually, which native nations all had their own culinary traditions. There's some cool-ass chefs keeping that alive, too. Yeah, like, there's some really interesting local food stuff in America, but a lot of the cuisine has been influenced by the cuisine of... I mean, it's the same... It's not just an American thing, it's a global thing of... Countries become influenced by the cuisines of the people that have ruled over them for a time. Like, the UK has Roman and French influences to our dishes because we were ruled by the Romans and the French. After that, you get a lot of other stuff that happened, which brought a lot of other things in. Like we've got a lot of Dutch things. Like there's a lot of love for Dutch cheeses in the UK because we had a lot of trading with the Dutch. You see a lot of that also in the Philippines, where they like Dutch food. I think they like Dutch cheeses historically. Well, yeah, America's truly the melting pot, as you were taught, but unfortunately the vocal minority only like that title as a title, not a reality. Yeah, and America is an easy example of a melting pot because there was a bunch of... The colonies were all by different people. Like, obviously you had the massive French influence from Canada as well. And, like, then you had... I presume you must have had a Russian influence, but it was likely vastly reduced because of then the Cold War and everything probably eliminated quite a bit of that. I imagine before that there would have been some crosstalk with Russia.
And obviously the Jewish aren't native to America. They were Central European largely. Like, they moved, literally the Israelites, when they were Israelites, came from the Middle East and ended up spread all around Europe, largely. And it was then the Second World War, when the Jews were being prosecuted in the Holocaust and everything, that sort of drove them away from Central Europe, and into, some of them went Scandi, some of them went south, quite a lot of them went over to America, and then America decided, this is too many people, we don't want to keep them. This holy book says this was once your country, let's go and take that back for you so you can go there, so we don't have to have you. If you know indigenous Celtics to the UK, what would they have eaten? Native foods. So yes, lamb, mutton, largely mutton, probably some beef. I don't know, because beef, I don't know if beef was native to the UK. It may have come over from Europe. Chicken, we definitely had chicken. I think the main ones were probably chicken and mutton. A lot of beetroot, peas, foraged stuff like that. Carrots, parsnips, beets, turnips. Again, I think turnips probably would have come over from mainland Europe. But beetroots, I'd imagine at least some varieties would have been native to the UK. There would have been some kind of a grain, whether that was just oats or something else as well, like sorghum or millet. Lots of fish if you're around the coast. Probably squirrel, rabbit. Quite a lot of rabbit, if you could catch it. Yeah. Because there's at least the first few people to build Stonehenge and started Celtic mythology and all of that. And the original Gaelic before Romans conquered. Yeah, so you had... There was the Celtic, the Gaelic, and the Anglo-Saxons. The UK was not one joined tribe. We had our own, feudal state of nomadic tribes and everything. We had nomadic tribes, then we had feudal states briefly, which is more sort of around the time of legends like Arthur Pendragon and stuff like that. Then you had, I forget when the Romans were. I think the Romans may have been before Arthur. Would have made sense for them to have been before. It would have been easier to conquer. But we also had fighting against the Vikings. Then we sort of got dominated by the French, and we had French kings for a very long time until the Magna Carta, which is why in English the names for most meats are actually derived from the French for that animal. Beef, bœuf, mutton, mouton. Chicken is the only... Chicken and fish are the only exceptions to that, because they were peasant meats which would have been readily available to the peasantry of the English at that time. And that's why
chicken is called after the animal, whereas we have different names for the animal to the meat. For most other things. Yeah, fun little history lesson. British folklore and mythology is actually really interesting to learn about, because for the most part, Britain kind of lost a lot of that when I don't know when exactly it happened, but we got like entirely dominated by the church, and by Christianity, and Christianity wiped out most of the like pagan belief systems, or if they didn't wipe them out, they absorbed them, which is why we have, this isn't specifically British, but more of a wider thing of how Christianity became so big. Of it absorbed Easter. Easter was originally Ostrava, which was celebrating the change of seasons. Forget if it had anything to do with the equinox. Probably. And Christmas originally had nothing to do with Christ. Christ was not born on Christmas Day. He wasn't. It was to celebrate the winter solstice. But they absorbed that. Yeah, you have Yuletide, was Scandi, Norse. Like, that wasn't a unique celebration. There were multiple different celebrations for the winter solstice. Yuletide being one of the ones that sort of stuck, nomenclature-wise. Trying to think if there's... I'm not really a great... I don't actually know that much about the different holidays. Like, there's the ones that Jews celebrate, which are more actually rooted in the history of that specific religion, like Hebrew stuff. Will have adapted, but for the large part hasn't changed all of that much since ancient days, from my understanding. Whereas Christianity has adapted to fit a wider audience by, instead of taking away that celebration and that festival that people used to have, they instead absorb it and make it their own and adapt it. And that's part of why Christianity was able to spread as far as it did. Yeah. Ostrava and the winter solstice are the two that I remember best. Because Lent is carried over from Judaism, I believe. So then you have the Passover and stuff. Christianity didn't keep anything around Hanukkah. I don't actually think of anything that happens particularly in the summer. For Christianity. But that might just be because I'm not religious. I don't think there's a celebration for the summer solstice. There's just Easter, which was adapted from Ostrava. Yeah. Would I like to hear a poem that you wrote last night? I have a feeling that regardless of my answer, I'm going to hear it anyway, so you may as well. Is the better question, do you want to read the poem that you wrote last night? I need to finish up soon so I can prep for raid equivalent. For grandfather's honor, he really said that. He's never said anything nice about grandfather. Milksop, lackwit, traitor even. But maybe he always believed. Secretly. Alright. I'll believe in my father too. I can't just sit back and wait for him to come home, can I? Please, come with me to watch him. We might even be able to start Stormblood's quests. I need to stop going on tangents. If I want to do that, though. I don't think we'll be able to finish Stormblood's one. But Stormblood being the last expansion that has class-specific crafting quests. Because after that, you get more like craft role quests. Where different crafting jobs kind of get grouped together. Similar to how you stop having job quests and start having role quests for healer, tank, melee, ranged, magical. Yeah, get him. Stab him with your wood. But the spear and Naguravilu was... What kind of trident is that it has 4 prongs? Did you see that, Father? Couldn't have done it without you. You did it! You did it! Philippale, what in Aloni's name are you doing here? Father, the way you moved with the lance, I was wrong to doubt you. You're a proper dragon slayer now. Shame the Dragon Song war's over. I am at that. I've avenged my father and cleared his name. I've earned the bloody title. Whether he recognizes it or not. After I asked much of you, you never let me down. You've got my thanks. Could not have slain Naguravilu without this lance. Only my father had had such a fine weapon. I've got to go to where he rests and apologize. I lost faith in him. I listened to what others said. Else I've said more than my fair share of unkind things over the years too. Where is he, Father? Nearby. I've never been. It's time you met him, Philippale. Why couldn't they have just called him Philip? Me and the boy will visit my father's grave. It's in the Lich Yard in Gorgane Mills, not so far from here. He would have liked you. Why not join us? Just another Heavensward zone, making you go ridiculous distances
especially if you didn't have flight. Hello, sweet baby. Meow. To you too. Father, this is Arthur. He's the one who made the trident. What I'm trying to say is, Nguravilu's dead. I killed him. Time for raid prep, which means you're going to leave. Fair enough. I thought we weren't starting until 10 tonight. Yeah. I've got time. What? I've got time. Yeah, slow blink. This zone's the worst for in terms of nothing looks distinct, but the Sea of Clouds is more of a pain. Yeah, Sea of Clouds is more of a pain to navigate, even once you have light. Honestly, all of the Heavensward zones, other than the one that has tail feather in it. Like, the one that has tail feather in it, because Annex Trine and tail feather are relatively far apart from each other, it's not as bad to get anywhere than any of the other maps once you have flight. Sea of Clouds is by far the worst to navigate before you have flight. And even once you have flight. Azisla is in a world of its own, though, for both. Because you just get Azis far. And yeah. Azisla and Sea of Cloud, most of the maps from Heavensward, they just need either a central teleport point, or they need like a couple of teleport points sort of more spread out through the map, whereas this only has the one in like the bottom, the southeast corner. And so anywhere else, in some of them, you're better off going to Tailfeather and then traveling into the zone from Tailfeather rather than teleporting into Western Kurthus. It's ridiculous. I'm surprised they haven't added an extra Aetheryte crystal since. Especially given that in Western Kurthus, there is that ruined, frozen Aetheryte crystal, which I always thought we were going to reactivate at some point, but you never do, unless it's a blue quest I've somehow fucking missed. In which case, why is that missable? Anyway, and this is Philip Lay. He's my son, your grandson. Should have brought him sooner. Should have done a good many things sooner. Believe in you, defend your honor. You were a brave knight, and a better man than me. Mine was the blow that killed Nguravilu, only because your thrust was true. Farewell, father. I'll be back. Finger guns. We'll go and make the truth about my father known to the Temple Knights. Aye, and the dragon's death, too. Thank you. None of this would have been possible without you. Now we have to go back to Beaten.
Although, given how long this has taken, maybe it would be best for me to call it here. Probably, because then we can start Stormblood next time. And, I mean, I can't prep for the Stormblood ones. Because I need to craft stuff that is unique to Stormblood. So yeah, we'll call it here for tonight. But we got through the rest of A Realm Reborn and Heavensward, and we only got sidetracked a little bit. A little bit. Oh, I was also meant to do the event. How long does this event take? I don't actually know. It does end the 25th. I know I could do it next week, but I had kind of meant to do it today. I don't know how long it takes though, because it's the Final Fantasy XI crossover one, which I think they did a couple of years ago. About 40 minutes. I don't have that. And I'd have to read everything out, so it would probably take longer. Yeah. Because it's a series of quests rather than, like, 2 quests. Because it's an old event that they've repeated. I'm pretty sure I haven't done it on this character. Yeah, because I don't have the armor set that you get from it on this character, so I definitely haven't done it. I think I must have done it on my old character just before starting this character. Sounds about right. Yeah, we'll do that next week, because I've basically only got 20-30 minutes. So yeah, we will call it there for today. Next time we will do the event. We'll do the Stormblood quests for Carpenter, and then it will likely be switching to the next crafter, which will be Blacksmith, because I'm going to work my way down the list, and then we're going to do the Gatherers. But I'm going to do the quests up to Stormblood, up to and including Stormblood, and then after we've got like caught up to that point, we'll then go through and do Shadowbringers, Endwalker, and Dawntrail. Just because Shadowbringers, Endwalker, and Dawntrail switches to the role type instead. Like, I think it's grouped by something like I don't think it necessarily has an actual logic, because it's not like Metalworkers. I think it's like 3 or 4 groupings, right? I don't remember what any of the pairings are though. Because I think Culinarian and Alchemist are the same group. It would make sense for Leatherworker and Weaver and Blacksmith and Armor to be the same, but then that only leaves Carpenter and Goldsmith, which feels a little bit odd. But then I think, are the Gatherers also included in that? I don't remember. It's been a while. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to go and get ready for doing extremes and practicing not being so proactive as a shield healer. Which, it sounds odd, but that is basically what I need to do. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I will see you next time. There should be a stream tomorrow. I have not been asked to do anything else, and my friend has had his baby now. So, yeah. should be free from having to do any more stuff around his house for a bit. But I do need to mow my own lawn tomorrow or on Sunday. So I need to do that at some point, and I need to do a big bunch of sofrito, but I might do that in the slow cooker tomorrow. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I will see you next time. Have a good one. Later.